Hello, welcome to From the Basement Up. I am Michelle Brandress, founder of namebubbles.com, and I am so excited to introduce Guy Schanschieff with you today. He is the founder of Bambino Mio. He and his wife, Jo, founded this company 30 years ago. He has been in business for quite a while, has over 100 awards, selling to customers in over 50 countries. They are the sustainable choice for diapers, and they're doing amazing things. I am so excited for parents out there to learn about this product. It's not just that, they're cute. The product's cute, it's easy. You're going to find out about it and the reasons why Bambino Mio is just the leader in the space. So thank you for joining us today, and I'm so excited for you to meet Guy. So Guy, welcome so much, and thank you for joining us on From the Basement Up.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
So, and also just so the guests know, Guy, can you let us know where you're visiting from?
So I live and our company is based in the UK in Northamptonshire, which is about an hour north of London, for those who don't know the UK.
So really quickly, and Guy, you are a world traveler. It sounds like this is kind of how the company even got started. And if you don't mind kind of explaining how the idea came about, that would be great.
So many years ago, sort of over 30 years ago now, Jo and I, we're husband and wife now, but at that time we weren't. We were traveling. I trained in accountancy, a very bad accountant, and Jo was working in retail. We both gave up our jobs, decided to travel. I'd always wanted to run my own business. And it was a chance to travel we had no commitments, to travel and sort of think about ideas and find ideas. We initially went to India, and after a couple of weeks into the trip, we found ourselves at the Taj Mahal and got speaking to a guy, funny enough, from New York, who talked about diaper laundry services which had been quite big in New York in the 80s, and that sort of sparked an idea which we developed as we travelled. We actually came back to the UK in '92. Started one of the first diaper laundry services at that time, which we ran for a small period of time. It was never going to be particularly scalable, but it gave us a fantastic understanding of the products, because you're seeing customers every day, and you're relying on them to continue to use the product. And so, but a few years later, we sort of closed the diaper service down, and Bambino Mio was born. Buying and selling reusable diapers, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Okay, so I'm just curious, when you think of it like the diaper business, and I think that there's that sustainable part to this that's such a big, it makes such a big impact on the planet. Was that one of your main reasons for going into this?
Well, it's very interesting, and as you say, I mean, I could bore you for hours on the stats, but I mean, the big one is there's 90 billion disposable nappies thrown away every year in the world, and it's a significant problem, and it's a significant problem in sort of countries like we do a lot of work, as you say, globally. 21% of waste in Indonesia is just disposable. It's just disposable nappies. They end up in the sea. They end up in waste straight in the environment. But funnily enough, for me, it was always about a business idea. And it seemed a logical business idea at that time. I don't know why it seemed a logical business idea looking back, because in the 90s, everybody used disposables. So why would you set up a business trying to sell a reusable product when disposables is what everybody at the time thought was the future and what everybody would keep doing? So it was very much about a business idea and creating a business, but also creating a business that actually had some sort of purpose behind it. And in actual fact, as the journey has gone along, that purpose, that reason for doing it, has become even stronger. As you alluded to, we do lots of stuff outside the business, whether that be lobbying or working with NGOs or working with governments around the world. And the more you learn about this product category and the damage that it does and the impact that it has, I suppose it's reinforced that environmental element. But no, to answer your question, originally it was a business idea.
So when I found you, and I've been wanting to speak to you since the beginning, I started the podcast about a year ago, and I was like, wow, just looking at what you've done around the world already. And I think I found on your website, you've basically saved 2 billion nappies, diapers from going into landfills. And how long does a diaper stay in a landfill on average? Do they even know?
Well, they always quote the figures. It's at least 500 years. If you bury it in the ground in a landfill, it'll still be there in sort of 450, 500 years time. That's about how long it will take. So yeah, everything that all the diapers have been thrown away and not incinerated are still sitting in landfill.
Oh, it was terrible. So I have a twin brother and sister behind me. And my mom was so excited when she had a diaper service for the twins behind me. And then I remember when my son was born, I did use disposable diapers. And she kept saying, why aren't you? And I'm like, they're convenient, it's just easy, and not thinking about the bigger impact. And then hearing about what I had done later, I had a huge amount of guilt. I really did. And the reason why I love yours so much is that they're designed so well that it's like using just an easy to use disposable diaper. I love the look of them. Because when you go from a regular diaper service, they're still probably using the safety pins and everything.
Yeah.
How did you go through that design process?
Well, I can take no credit for that because that was Joe, my wife. We started the business together, and certainly the products and the marketing side of it was very much Joe's area. So the original diapers that we had in Bambino Mio were very similar to diaper service, what you would know as the diaper service, the pre-fold diapers and outer covers, and that's where we started the Bambino Mio. But actually, it's always been about, and our mission and purpose is still very much about just getting more people to use reusable diapers, and therefore, as you say, you wanted to make them as easy to use, and also we realized that actually to get it more mainstream, it needed to be in mainstream retail, and the idea of having an all-in-one size, which is what you're describing, with poppers to adjust the size, with Velcro, nice prints, modern fabrics. That was the development that came. We weren't the first to bring those sort of products to market, but certainly Joe developed the product based on when we had three at that point. We had three young children of our own, and so we were able to they modeled them, they trialed them, but also a huge network of new mums who were committed to reusable nappies and gave honest feedback on the product. So they were developed by users of the nappies were developed by users of the product, and I think as the category has grown, the demands from parents, quite rightly, has been gets greater. I mean, nappies, it's not rocket science. You need a nappy to be absorbent and to not leak, and those are the two key things. And we're just going to be, and that's developed over time. So in a few months' time, we launch a new sort of much more improved version of the nappy of the diaper that you're talking about, to develop and bring it on. So it's been a constant involvement, and how it was developed literally by trial and error and lots of babies.
Lots of babies. So here in the US, because you're one of the biggest, you may be the biggest in the world in this space. And so in the US market, I've seen you have an online store, actually for US listeners right now. And then you're on Amazon.
Yes.
So are you also in the Targets of the world and here in the US?
No, we're not. I mean, one of the things that we are very aware of as we grew the company, and we grew very fast. Certainly in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, we've grown very fast. And we've sold in around 50 countries globally. We're actually quite focused at the moment. So we're focusing very much on UK and our European markets. We've always done well in the US. And we have had some retail presence in the past. But as you say, we have our website. We work with Amazon. And at the moment, those are our two key channels in the US. It's, as I think lots of businesses find, especially European businesses and UK businesses, it's a very big market, the US, and to do it, and certainly we as a brand want to make sure that when we go into a market, we do it properly. So it's great. I mean, we have a great following in the US, which is really exciting, and we really value. And there will come a point where we will hopefully be able to hit that market with much greater penetration in terms of retail. And it's not that we don't have conversations with the retailers that you've mentioned, but it's certainly, yeah, from a US point of view, it's website and Amazon, which is exciting because we still see growth there.
Absolutely. I mean, so many people, everything's come to our house, busy moms, the last thing they want to do is go to the store with little ones. So having things shipped to them directly is perfect. So I was
and we
just
do have, and I'd be wrong not to say that we don't have. We do have a few specialty stores and on online specialty stores
right.
that we work with, which and who do very well with it, and it's great. It's great to work with those people as well.
That's fantastic. So as far as the UK, you saw this is really where you started. Where in Europe are you spreading to at this point?
So, I mean, export is still our biggest part. So 80% of our sales are export, and Germany is our biggest market. Has been for a few years now. We sell all over Europe, but Germany is the biggest market. So yeah, we started in the UK. I think for baby products, it's always going to be a finite market. There's only a certain number of babies that are born, and I think if you look around, there's two options really for companies in the baby space. One is to do what we did and expand to other markets, and one is to stick your brand on lots of other products. Well, for us, we are the experts in reusable diapers, in washable diapers. So it didn't make sense to extend that because that's not what we did. What we're known for and what we can do really well is diapers. So yeah, the way we have grown the business over the years is always twofold really. More people coming to the brand, more parents coming to reusable nappies, whilst at the same time expanding into other markets.
Nice. What do you think the driver is for parents to go into reusable diapers?
I think environmental issues is obviously top of the list, and I think we, as the generations move on in terms of that generation that's having babies now, I think there's a much greater awareness, but not just an awareness about environmental issues, because there's always been that sort of awareness, as you say, use disposables, and lots of people use disposables, and a lot of people know about the issues. But actually, I think the generations now, it's about wanting to do something about it. It's about understanding understanding the issues and the problems that disposables are creating, and actually wanting to do something and be part of the solution rather than be part of the problem. And I think that's certainly what we've noticed over time. So environment is top, but in the present climate, I mean, especially in Europe, with the challenges of the cost of living, cost is really big for a lot of parents using reusables. And the great thing, because it is a reuse product, because it's proper
Sure.
circular economy, the number of sites that where people can resell the product, that makes it cheaper because they can resell it at the end, but also there's ways of sourcing secondhand product at very good prices to be able to get people using reusables.
Okay, that's such a great point to put out there. On your website, I didn't see that. Does it kind of, I just remember spending so much money on diapers. It just, and you just be throwing you're in essence, you're throwing your money away. So I'm just curious, how much does how much does it cost to go through the disposable diapers versus like how much money are you saving families?
Well, you'll save a significant amount. I'm going to have to translate this quickly in my head in terms of dollars, but you can probably buy the full set of reusable diapers if you bought everything that you needed and the accessories, is going to be sort of probably just under $500, something like that. Disposables will be, I mean, they're going up in price, disposable diapers, quite rapidly. And that'll be well over $1,000. But of course, if you then have a second baby, you've already got the diapers then to use again. So you save you save much more. So the savings is quite high. I think one of the barriers that the brands like us have to get over is that upfront cost, because a lot of people don't have $500 to spend on diapers up front. So there is that second-hand market that I talked about. But actually, as a brand, one thing we're doing is working as much as possible to be able to split that cost. So we've launched in the UK, and this will roll out to other countries in the future, a system where people can pay for it over 12 months. So you're not paying any extra each month for what you would pay on disposable diapers. but at the end of 12 months you own them, and then after 12 months it's not costing you anything. And there is that, you alluded to the fact that we sell on Amazon, and for certain, and Amazon does on the big kits does offer that facility to pay over a certain number of months to split that cost.
That is such a good idea. I love that. Just not so they don't have to do the upfront. That's such a good idea. So when did you roll that out?
So that was trialed in the UK at the back end of last year, back end of 2022. It's now rolling out in the UK, and then we'll roll out to Germany and then other areas. But as I say, there are certain retailers that we work with, and in the US, Amazon is one of those, where actually that option is available for people as well. And I think the other thing is that some parents find it easier to use a mixture of disposables and reusables at certain times. So actually, there is that option of sort of buying them as you go along, as it were, as you build up your the amount that you need.
I did notice that you have like potty training pants, and then also swimmers as well. How are those? Are those starting to pick up as well?
They've always been a big part of our business, actually. And if you go to, say, not so much in the States, but if you go to most supermarkets, grocery stores in the US, grocery stores and pharmacy in Germany, most of them list our swim diapers and trainers. And that's, I think, for a lot of parents, the reason why those do very well is because you can, when you see it on the shelf in the grocery store, you can see the comparison with the cost for a start. That one pack of the disposable version will cost more in some cases than the washable one, than the reusable one. And also it looks nicer and feels nicer, and can be much more of an impulse purchase for parents, and they realize they perform well. I mean, the whole reusable, whether it be nappies or trainers, is we did some research, we've done research, and others have done research to show that babies will come out of reusable diapers a lot sooner, up to 18 months sooner than disposables. Obviously, there's lots of things that influence potty training, but actually the feel of the wetness, so the baby can associate, is all part of that learning process, which doesn't happen with disposables.
Okay.
Obviously, with my cynical head on, it allows the disposable companies to keep you in buying their diapers for a lot longer than that you would do with reusables. And
You're
then
right.
it increases the cost significantly, and probably puts a significant number of disposables into landfill by babies staying in those nappies.
So I love just that you started this business because you thought it was a good business to start, and then it has this huge benefit for the planet and for so many people out there. You've won many awards, and there's things that I don't understand what they are just because they're based in the UK. But can you explain some of those, and then some of the work like the island of Vanuatu, and just how single-use plastics aren't allowed in some places, and how you're stepping in to help?
So from an awards point of view, yeah, we're really lucky that we've had, I feel very privileged and humble that we've won quite a considerable number of awards. So we've probably won 100 consumer awards for our various products, for the swim nappies, for the swim diapers, for the diapers themselves, and then we've won lots of business awards as well for export, for sustainability. I suppose some of the highlights are we've won 2 Queen's Awards. So the late Queen started awards back in the 50s when she first became Queen. And there was a couple, there's 4 categories now, but essentially the 2 big ones, and the 2 we've won, are for international business and for sustainability. There's only ever been 7,000 of these awarded through 70 years of her reign. We won 2 of those, which was a massive honor. We were also listed, I think 2 years ago, we were listed in the Sunday Times 100 fastest growing companies in the UK, which was a great privilege. And I was lucky enough to be 12 years ago awarded an MBE, a member of the British Empire, which the Queen Awards, to various people to acknowledge. I mean, it was for business, but it was acknowledgement of a lot of the lobbying and the campaigning work that I've done over the years in this area.
Congratulations.
Sorry, what was the second point? And the second point was about Vanuatu.
Yes. And I love how you pronounce that. So I definitely had that wrong. But I would love, when I was doing my reading, I was like, wow, just how you're impacting people everywhere. And it's just becoming it is a big thing, not becoming, it is a big thing. And I would love to have you share that story of how you're impacting people on these islands.
So Vanuatu is a very small island, a set of islands off the east coast of Australia. Um, they are affected by more natural disasters than any country in the world. Um, they announced a ban on disposable diapers about 4 or 5 years ago as part of a wider plastics ban. Um, and I mean, you have to remember that a lot of these Pacific countries and a lot of countries in the global South, and it's one of those things that I've learned having done this, and it's quite and it it's it's one of those things that drives me to do more and more of it, because a lot of these countries, they do not have the infrastructure. I mean, Vanuatu has one municipal waste facility on the main island, and that's it. And yet these large corporations are pumping single-use products, whether it's nappies or anything else, into these countries over the last 10, 15 years, where there is no way you're ever going to get rid of them. So they get buried in the ground or they're washed out to sea. 25% of Vanuatu's waste is just disposable diapers. And as I say, most areas of the country don't have any way of getting rid of them because they're not geared up for single-use products. So they get buried on the beach and washed out to sea, which is why nappies are something like the 16th most commonly found item in the oceans. So they announced the ban. I got in touch with the government minister out there who was involved. They actually rode back on that because it hadn't been dealt with particularly well, and there was a backlash. I mean, the fascinating thing is that the issues around acceptance of reusables is the same the world over. It's not about taxing. It's not about banning. It's about education. It's about people realizing what the issues are and taking action themselves to put those things right, and understanding the benefits of not just the environment but cost, and also a lot of parents who get more and more concerned about the chemicals and plastics next to the baby's skin for the first 2.5 years. So what we did is we did two things in Vanuatu. One is we teamed up with a cooperative that was already out there, a local cooperative that was already producing reusable sanitary wear and reusable nappies in reusable diapers in a small way, just for the local market, and to help them scale up, to give them some advice and give them some help, so they could provide for the local market. But also we funded a project to go out to meet parents throughout Vanuatu, so not just in the city, but maybe parents that are out on islands where there was no running water and no electricity, and actually get them to understand what reusable diapers meant and what the implications of them were and how they worked, and see them and feel them. And at the end of that project, over 80% of parents who'd seen the product then had an acceptance of it. So we're still hopeful at some point
Nice.
that more will happen there. And then obviously COVID intervened, and travel in the Pacific was very difficult, and obviously priorities were in different places. But we're in discussions at the moment. We very much hope to over the next 12 months to lead on a project with various NGOs in that area, to really drive the adoption of reusable nappies across quite a number of countries within the Pacific, because the issue is so much more pressing for the reasons that I described.
So, I mean, it's a great solution. It's fantastic. And thank you for doing that work. And one question I was curious about was, you've had this huge surge of growth, and like, I know it can be hard when you suddenly your orders start flying and coming in. How have you been able to handle this?
So we've grown the business. Say 2 or 3 years ago, we'd grown very rapidly. We made the decision, when would it be now? Probably 2 years ago, that actually the impact that we can have and the growth that we can have in the company could be a lot more significant. So actually, we made the decision 2 years ago to take on investment, to sell part of the business, and to take on investors, because to sit alongside us, to help us push forward, and bring in expertise, and bring in people who were experts at growing businesses. We'd created this business, taken it to a certain level. We got it to a point where we knew that the opportunity for this business was huge, but actually you need investment both in terms of cash, but more importantly in terms of experts to come in and help you drive that. So that's the way we've dealt with it. I think what you find when you start a business, and I think I've discovered this in the last little while, when you start a business from scratch, you tend to build on what you've always done. So when you've then done it for 20, 25 years, what you've created seems simple in your head, but actually it becomes incredibly complex, and it becomes more and more difficult to then drive significant growth going forward. So we've been, as a business, in a really interesting period since the investment, because actually we've looked at everything from supply chain to suppliers to marketing to our messaging to our structure, and actually putting the right things in place to be able to drive that growth on going forward. It's been a really important exercise for us, because I think the biggest challenge, you say, is how do you cope with it? We did cope with it, and we managed to deliver that growth. But I think that would, had we not done all the things we've done in the last 12 months, that would become more and more difficult if all we'd done is just continue to work in the way we had done, because businesses go through different stages, and at some point you need to go to that next level. And I think the danger a lot of businesses fall into, which hopefully we've avoided, is you believe your own success, because actually if you're doing really, really well, then why won't that just continue? But I think if you look a year forward or 2 years forward, especially with really ambitious growth, that actually your infrastructure won't necessarily, it's fine up to a certain level, but you need to change it to move on.
Very smart. Now, how has this affected you on a personal level as far as that work-life balance? Has it been, are you just riding a rocket and you'll slow down when you run out of gas, or is it just, have you been able to step back a little bit and allowed other people to kind of take the reins?
Yeah, so I've moved to what is termed a founder role now, which is great. Because the idea was to bring in people who could then drive it forward and be accountable for driving it forward as well. So there'd be no point in taking the investment to do that and then feel that I needed to keep pushing that forward. So in terms of the business, then we've got people in to do that, to run it day to day. So I was able to step aside, which has also meant that I am able to do much more of the bigger stuff, the working with governments, the telling people about the category. I mean, we're very lucky in that, yes, we're what people would term a purpose-driven business. We were a purpose-driven business before anybody sort of defined it in that way. But I think the other, I mean, it's not unique, but the other great thing about Bambino Mio is our purpose objectives are completely aligned with our commercial objectives, because of course, as the business grows, as the category grows, we grow along with that. So actually, I am able to go out and shout about the issues about disposables, promote the use of reusable nappies, knowing that Bambino Mio can be part of that solution, and there are people within Bambino Mio who have the skills and the experience to be able to grow a business and react to that change in the market.
Thank you for sharing that. So it's just, I think that you've been in this a long time. So, wow, to go through all of that and then have investment come in and then to be able to step back, and now you're making this a big difference in the world. You are. So it's so cool that you started the business, and it's this wonderful positive side effect that you're able to imprint and have. So it's wonderful. Thank you. I did want to ask, to actually, Bambino Mio, how did the name come about?
Well, when we ran very briefly, when we ran the diaper service, we were selling some of the product. We were acting as a distributor for a company that was selling products, and we were actually selling somebody I knew who'd just written a brochure, a mail order brochure to sell reusable diapers called Bambino Mio. But she'd written this brochure and said, I really don't want to do this. I want to move, and horses is my interest. But I've just printed 10,000 brochures. Now, we knew we were going to make the transition into doing mail order and moving away from the diaper service. So we said, well, look, close your company down. We can change the name of our company to Bambino Mio, which means you don't need to throw away 10,000 brochures. And we inherited it. So it was luck rather than design. It's seen us really well. And actually, she got it the person who started that company got it from a 1980s TV film about adopting babies from Eastern Europe called
Okay.
Bambino Mio, starring Julie Walters, if you ever want to try and find it online.
So typically, I wanted to know, I like asking like the toughest lesson. And, those big lessons are great for, we have colleges, a lot of colleges actually also listen to the podcast, and I'm sure they're business students, but what is a tough lesson that you went through that you wouldn't mind sharing?
So back in 2010, 2009, 2010, we lost a huge amount of turnover over a short period of time. So we used to work with distributors. We now work in all our markets direct. We used to work with distributors, and our two biggest distributors had issues in their own businesses, which meant they stopped ordering over a period of time. So our turnover fell by more than a third in the space of about 6 weeks. And actually, the initial reaction was, well, it's always come back. We've always been a growing business. We started from scratch. It will come back, and it didn't. And I think there's a couple of really important lessons that I learned from that. One is, there's no point just sitting back, and you can sit back and blame everybody as long as you like. You blame the distributors, you blame the market, you blame, I don't know, blame staff, whatever you want to do. But actually, that's never going to get it sorted until you take ownership of that problem and just sort it out. You can moan as much as you like, but actually you need to own that and deal with it. And the second thing, which I think is a recurring theme for us as business owners, and I think for others who start businesses, is you think you're in the worst possible time for the business and you personally, but actually what always comes out, that it's almost like the worse it is, the better the decisions that come out of it. So I think back to that time, and we made big decisions to then go to market directly, to not work through distributors, to work more with grocery stores. And there was one or two other decisions that we made at the time, which actually and stuff we did in digital, which actually laid the foundations for then our success for the following 10 years. But if we hadn't been through that bad time, we would never have done that. And I think the whole of the journey is littered with those examples, that when you think you're in the absolute worst of time, that's sort of when you're making the most significant decisions.
I hear you on that one. Absolutely. You're looking at the budget, or you're looking at everything you're spending, making sure everything makes sense. So yeah. I definitely hear that one. One other thing was, I love ending these conversations with like a positive story, words to live by, kind of your mantra. And if you wouldn't mind also sharing like your best story, the most positive story, and then kind of your mantra of the day that you typically start off with.
Well, I think my mantra, which is always, which I've always followed, I think my dad had this as well. I remember learning it from him, which is the saying of a man's reach should exceed his grasp, which is always going, I mean, because in the early days of starting this business, or saying we're going into reusable diapers, people thought we were mad, but always sort of going further than you think, always aiming for much further than actually anybody would think that you could, or even you personally think you could, because actually you should always be striving for as far as you can possibly push it. And certainly for us, the idea of, if you'd said to me 25 years ago that we'd be selling in 50 countries, we'd be in grocery stores, and actually the talk in the world and sitting in meetings. I mean, this is, you talked about good moments. I will give you a very special moment in a minute, but always what I always get a buzz for, or feel good about, is I've been in meetings in the most bizarre places around the world, and people will sit in that meeting and say, oh yes, I used your product, or my daughter used your product, or my friend used your product. And that is always, and I think that will never leave me, in terms of being really special from when you started really small. I suppose, I mean, there's been lots of great moments. I mean, I've been really lucky because one of the great things about doing this and starting from scratch is your job is different every year you work on it, because the business grows. So what you're doing is very different. One of the special moments, we were, as I mentioned earlier, we were lucky enough to win. We've won 2 Queen's Awards. The first one we won was the Queen's Awards for Export, and we were presented it by Princess Anne, the Princess Royals, and she came and visited our offices, and she walked around and met everybody, and it was really nice. And then I think she's got 3 or 4 grandchildren. She just had her last grandchild when she came to visit, and so we'd actually commissioned, our product development team had actually done a print that was specifically, her daughter rode in the Olympics, and her son-in-law played rugby for England. So we did a design. We only produced 2 of them for her to give, which was a rugby design and a horse design. And at the end of the tour, we presented it to her, and she turned around to me and said, "Oh, well, that's great, because she already uses your products, and we took a delivery. In fact, I was there last week when we took a delivery." So that was a real special moment to know that royalty was using the products. But there's been lots of them.
Lovely. I love that. Guy, thank you for joining us today and telling us your story and your journey. Actually, thank you for making this change. It was a needed change, and we're all going to be appreciating it for many years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our listeners for joining us for today's episode. And thank you to my amazing producer, Emily Flanagan. She deals with all my shenanigans. Julia Augustino, thank you for the amazing composition that you have made for the podcast. And listeners, feel free to check us out on our social media channels. Don't forget to give us a 5-star review. And you can also visit us on fromthebasementup.com. Thank you so much.